passion and mystery. This is already very, very dramatic and we're only 2 lines in. Lana, you have my attention. Hello everyone, greetings. Hi everyone, how's it going? Welcome to this video. If you're new to my channel, hi, welcome. I analyze things in depth through the lens of literary analysis. Right now, the main series on my channel is going through the lyrics of Taylor Swift's newest album called Folklore. Today, I thought I would throw a pinch of variety in and analyze a non-Taylor Swift song. If you are a Taylor Swift stan, worry not. Next Friday's video will be a Folklore song analysis. So get stoked for that. Before we get started, I just want to address something that is literally not important at all. If you watch my lyric analysis of Death by 1,000 Cuts, it was 2 videos ago, I believe, you probably are wondering if this video is old because I have bangs. No, it's not. I was editing the Death by 1,000 Cuts video, which I filmed when I first started this channel, and I was like, should I get bangs again? And I cut my own bangs. Don't look too closely. They're not like styled or anything. I'm just letting them exist as they are in this moment in time. But yeah, in case you were wondering, you probably weren't. Just FYI, y'all. Let's get started. So I went back and I looked at some comments to see if there were any requests that I could do for you guys. This song I'm doing today is actually a request. If you ever have any requests of songs you want me to analyze in depth, please leave them down below. I haven't been doing requests as often just due to me trying to get through the Folklore album, but I'm going to be taking them more readily, so always leave them down below in the comments. Today we are doing the song Summertime Sadness by Lana Del Rey. If you are a Lana Del Rey fan, I did analyze another one of her songs, Mariner's Apartment Complex. I'll go ahead and link that for you guys in case you're interested. One thing I want to note before I get started is that I don't know a lot about Lana Del Rey's personal life. If you've watched my Taylor Swift analysis videos, you know that I know a lot about her because I've been following her since the MySpace days, okay? It's been a second, so I know a lot about her personal life, and I tie that into the analysis that I do. With Lana's music, I only started listening to her for real this past year, so I don't know a lot about her personal life, so it's gonna be more of an objective interpretation of her music. If you know anything that you can tie into the lyrics, always leave it down below. I always encourage you guys to leave comments about what you think. Which brings me to another disclaimer. Music is very subjective. Everything presented in this video is my own personal opinion. I really believe that word choice is important and it can change the meaning of literally everything. That's why I tend to concentrate on diction, which is word choice, and connotation, which can be thought of as like the vibes or the emotions that the words elicit. Let's go and get started. First, I just want to state that this title is an alliteration, and I love alliterations so much. I just think they're so pleasant. An alliteration is when there are words repeated after one another that start with the same letter or the same sound. Summertime Sadness. If you notice, my channel name is also an alliteration, so I stand alliterations. Obviously, summer is a season, right? You can also think of summer as a state of mind. When I think of the season of summer, I think of relaxed state. It's very easygoing, very calm. It's kind of dreamlike a little bit. When I look at it visually or imagery-wise, it's kind of foggy, kind of dreamlike. It's like a daydream. It's not really like a dream when you go to sleep, but it's like a daydream sort of thing. It's very ethereal and kind of otherworldly as well. It's just a very laid-back kind of time. So this could be referring to the actual season of summer. It could also just be referring to a state of mind. For me personally, I often equate seasons to moods and emotions and states of mind. Like you can feel autumn in summer. I kind of view them as emotions, but here again, you can view it either way. The word sadness has a negative connotation. It gives me a somber vibe. If we were to look at summertime sadness, the words together, I would take the dreamlike nature of summertime. And when I think of it through the lens of sadness, I kind of think of it as very slow moving, but in a heavy way. Sometimes daydreams are slow moving, but in a very balanced and positive way. But I would view a sad summertime as moving slowly, but in a heavy way. Like you're weighed down by it and you're not gaining anything positive from it. Very somber. I still see light being present because it is summertime and you associate sunlight with the summertime usually. But I just kind of view it as something that's very slow moving and it's kind of weighing you down when you are existing within it and even when you're thinking about it. Let me know if you agree or not in the comments below. But there is a multitude of different ways we can think about this title. I think they're all valid. Whatever you choose to believe is true for you. Let's go ahead and get into the lyrics and then maybe we can pick which definition of summertime sadness fits it the best. Let's get started. Also, if I'm looking to the side, I have my lyrics and notes on here that I am referring to, so I'm still paying attention to you, promise. Verse 1. I got my red dress on tonight, dancing in the dark in the pale moonlight, done my hair up real big beauty queen style, high heels off, I'm feeling alive. This first verse has a lot of imagery that I appreciate. The diction here really allows you to see different colors adjacent to one another. It does a very good job of painting a picture. I'm specifically looking at the words red, dark, pale, and moonlight. Let me explain further. I got my red dress on tonight. The color red is often associated with passion. It's a very bold color. It's fiery, it's passionate. It often stands out. The fact that it's a red dress, it's a bold statement. It's very sultry. You wear a red dress with a purpose sometimes. The word dark, I mean, it's literally nighttime, right? So that word definitely has a purpose to give us setting clues and to provide context clues. However, it's interesting that red is existing within the darkness. For me, I really associate red with passion. And passion is very interesting because it can be a very beautiful thing, but it can also be unstable. It doesn't really have the most stable foundation. It can be stable and beautiful and just flow. Passion can flow, but it can also be like fiery and be very intense. There's a line, and if you cross it, the passion can turn dangerous, right? There's different types of passion. It's not just a romantic type, and you can be passionate about a lot of other things in life. And if you cross the line, it can kind of get into the danger territory. It can be a beautiful thing and it can dance around like a fire. I talk about fire imagery a lot in my lyric analysis videos. In my last video in the song Peace by Taylor Swift, I described fire imagery in detail. Go ahead and link it if you're interested. But fire is very interesting. A lot of people associate fire with passion and with the color red. And fire, if it's contained where it's supposed to be, if it's burning where it's supposed to burn, it's a very beautiful and lively thing. There's movement in the middle. But if it gets out of hand, it doesn't dance anymore. It's just ravaging everything, and it's destructive and it's dangerous. That's how I view passion, and that's what the color red makes me think of. I find it very interesting the color red is existing in a sort of darkness. It's an interesting juxtaposition in my opinion. Juxtaposition is when things are set side by side for the purpose of comparison. So for me, I see a sort of passion dancing in a darkness, kind of like a fire in my opinion. And since it's at night, there's a few ways we can look at this. It's like under the cover of darkness. No one can really see it. It's kind of like a secretive thing. Something being a secret makes it special, but then you can also ask, why is it a secret? Is it something that's dangerous? Is that why it's a secret? Is that why it's occurring during the darkness? That gives it a feeling of mystery to me. So passion and mystery. This is already very, very dramatic, and we're only 2 lines in. Lana, you have my attention. I want to see where this goes. It can also just be something that other people don't need to see. Perhaps she has the red dress on for herself. Maybe she just wants to wear a red dress. Like, girl, I feel you, okay? Sometimes you just want to wear something cute and go out, and you don't really need anyone to see you. You don't need anyone's approval or validation. Sometimes you just want to do things for yourself. Maybe that's why it's stated that it's dark out, because no one needs to see her. Maybe she's just allowing her emotions to guide her. The word pale is very interesting because I kind of view paleness as sort of opposite as the word dark. The sky is dark, right? But then the moonlight is pale. Pale to me just means there's a lack of color. There is still light. The moonlight is still providing light, but it's not bright. Sunlight is bright. Moonlight is beautiful, but it's also kind of pale. So the type of light imagery that's present here is not pure, in my opinion. I talk about light imagery a lot in the song Daylight by Taylor Swift. I'll go ahead and link that in case you're interested. Usually light and sunlight is a very positive image. It's very cleansing. However, the only sort of light imagery present in this song is moonlight, and it's pale. Now, I think the moon is very beautiful. I stan the moon and moon imagery. However, there's something that my English teacher told us in like high school freshman year that I will never forget. And it's the fact that moonlight isn't really coming from the moon. It's actually light that's reflected from the sun. So the moon is not able to create its own light. So at night, when we see moonlight, it's actually the sunlight reflected onto the moon and onto the earth. So the source isn't even from the moon itself. If we think about that through a metaphorical lens, that's kind of sad, right? It's still beautiful, but when you think about it like that, it's kind of muted. It's kind of melancholy that the moon isn't able to create its own light. It's still beautiful, but at its core, at the foundation of its existence, it is relying on something else to produce light. It is not an independent entity. It's not self-sufficient at creating light. You have to remember now that moonlight is the only type of light that's present in this scenario. Is this reflective of the protagonist of the song? Protagonist just means the main character of a story. It's definitely possible. When you think about moonlight in this way and what's going on in this song, there's a lot of different ways you can interpret it. For every single song in existence, there's a multitude of different ways you can interpret it. I feel like with this song in particular, and honestly with a lot of Lana's work, there's so many ways you can interpret it. And just me interpreting the word pale in one way is going to change how I interpret the whole song. There's a lot to consider. She does a really good job of crafting her lyrics. I know that she writes poetry. I can tell she's very much a wordsmith. I've already recorded 20 minutes and I'm still like on the first 2 lines of this song. There's a lot of imagery to consider, and just the implications of those imageries. It's very interesting. Another thing I want to say is that sunlight is a very warm tone, but then the moonlight is a very cool tone. So they're kind of opposites, right? Just like day and night are opposite. And just like the color red is fiery, but then the paleness of the moon is kind of opposite of that fiery nature. It's kind of in the background. But there's a lot of opposition here. A lot of opposing images are being portrayed here. To me, when things are opposing, it kind of signifies a sort of unbalance, because usually in a balanced and stable situation, things flow. I think here things are packaged together. So like they're not flowing seamlessly, but they are packaged together. Like the red under the cover of the darkness with the moonlight. It is a package, but I don't think that it's stable and it's flowing. Especially because it says she's dancing too. So she's dancing in the dark under the pale moonlight in her red dress. Like imagery wise, this is a very beautiful image, but I see it as passion dancing under the cover of darkness, and the only light is moonlight. I think of her just dancing alone on a street. The fact that her hair was done up real big beauty queen style. I love the specificity in that lyric. I can really imagine what Lana was looking like that night. Her high heels are off, so I feel like she's coming back from an event or a party. You know, sometimes after a party, you just kind of feel exuberant, you feel giddy, but you're exhausted at the same time. It's just a feeling and it's just flowing out of you. I think that's what she's experiencing. She's just letting that emotion overtake her. I do worry though with the connotations of the colors and the imagery here. It really makes me feel like something unstable is happening. It sounds like she just got back from a party. Her feet hurt, she took her heels off, and it's just, she's allowing her emotions to be felt. This reminds me of one of my favorite lyrics of all time. I'm a really big Dashboard Confessional fan. My second video on this channel was me analyzing a Dashboard Confessional song. I'll link it if you guys want to watch it. That video was mainly made for me for like selfish purposes because I stan him so hard. But there's a lyric in the song Stolen by Dashboard Confessional, and it says, "You are the best ones of the best ones. We all look like we feel." The line "we all look like we feel" is what I thought of immediately when I read the lyric here that says, "I'm feeling alive." It's so rare for us to externally evoke an emotion we feel internally, right? A lot of times there's a mismatch between our internal state and how we present ourselves externally. I think in this instance, for the protagonist of this song, I'm assuming it's Lana, but we'll just say protagonist, her emotions and her external vibe are just one and the same. It's not a point here and a point here. They're like, so this is her internal state, right? And this is her external state. They like have lined up. So like if you look at it from this perspective, they're overlap, so it's just one point. I hope this makes sense. Pretty much she's existing in a state that is in line with her emotions. Let me know if that makes sense in the comments below. This is literally like 25 minutes of recording and I'm like in the first verse. This is what Lana Del Rey does to me. Verse 2. "Oh my God, I feel it in the air. Telephone wires above are sizzling like a snare. Honey, I'm on fire. I feel it everywhere. Nothing scares me anymore." I have a lot of notes for this verse. She is saying, "Oh my God." This is a saying, right? People say, "Oh my God, OMG," a lot in conversation, but she explicitly wrote it into a song. She's making it seem more relatable. I kind of feel closer to the lyrics because I feel like this is a friend just talking to me, being like, "Oh my God, this is what it felt like." It gives a more humanistic feel to the song, and it kind of modernizes the song as well. "I feel it in the air." She is not only feeling her emotions inside and allowing that to pour outward, She's also feeling an energy in the air. There is something brewing in this night. Something about the energy, something about how she feels. Everything is lining up in a very interesting way. Some days, some things just line up like within your life, and then when you step out, everything lines up in the outer world as well. I think that's what she's feeling here. There's a lot of different like energies at play. I feel like there's a lot of movement of energies inside of her and just outside too. She's feeling things outside of herself as well, which is very interesting. I feel like when she's like dancing like this and she's looking above and her eye catches the telephone wires. The imagery with the telephone wires is very interesting. Let's go and take a look at that. Telephone wires above are sizzling like a snare. The fact that she's dancing with her high heels off makes me feel like she's in a neighborhood of some sort. If it was a busy highway, she couldn't really be dancing, right? It'd be busy. So I feel like she's like in a neighborhood or something and she's just like dancing and then there's telephone wires above. So imagery wise, I think that's what's literally happening. Let's talk about sizzling like a snare. Let's define some words. I looked up the word snare. I wanted to make sure that I had a precise definition. I'm gonna give you some definitions. I promise it's gonna be relevant. Just bear with me for a moment. This first definition is from Oxford Languages. Pretend I Emily cited that. A snare is a trap for catching birds or small animals, usually using a noose. A noose is like a wire or cord that goes around the neck, right? That's a very violent image. And also, a snare catches birds. Where do birds usually sit instead of trees? On telephone wires. The previous line. Another definition of snare, again from Oxford Languages, is a thing likely to lure or tempt someone into harm or error. Makes me wonder, is the snare that she's talking about here for the birds or is it for her? There's passion dancing in the dark, okay? Is she being lured somewhere? Let's continue. A snare is a length of wire stretched across a drumhead to produce a rattling sound. The word sizzling in the line previous is a sound, and here it's saying that a snare can produce a sound. Every single part of this three-part definition that I found is present in the lyrics of this song. I find that very interesting. I have more, hold on. Then I go to Wikipedia, as one does. According to Wikipedia, a snare, again, it's a wire noose. It's simple, but it's, quote, very effective in trapping things. However, according to Wikipedia, a snare is very controversial. It's been criticized for its cruelty. And apparently, it's illegal in certain parts of Europe because it's so cruel to the animals. For instance, again, according to Wikipedia, in the UK, the snares have to be something called free-running snares, which means that once the noose captures the animal around the neck, it has to relax if the animal keeps pulling. This is a very violent word. The connotation of the word snare is very violent. It's cruel and it's very graphic. This imagery is very violent and it can be very gruesome too, depending on how intensely you want to interpret this word. It's very interesting that this image comes right after the first verse where it makes it seem like she's free and having a great time and she's kind of just like allowing her emotions to take over. Again, this is kind of why I view this as an unbalanced state, because look at this imagery in the second verse. She's taking the telephone wires, which are just a part of the setting, and they're sizzling like a snare. I gave you the definitions. Let's kind of break down what this could potentially mean in this song. There's a lot of ways you can look at it. I'm looking at this song as just lots of unbalance, so that's going to be the lens with which I interpret it. If you have other interpretations, which I'm sure you will, leave them down below. I think it's really interesting to actually discuss this. So this whole thing just seems a little bit sinister. It's a little bit dark. Again, it's just like she's feeling free, she's dancing, but there's a darkness in the background. Literally it's night, but like this imagery is, like I was shook when I looked this up. Like I knew it was kind of like a trap or something, but I didn't realize it was this intense, that it was literally illegal, and I wasn't aware there was like a noose involved. The fact that telephone wires are in the line before this and birds sit on telephone wires and this is, and a snare is a trap for a bird, I think is very intense. He's essentially saying that the telephone wires on which the birds sit are a trap for the birds. That's very sinister, right? It's like she's viewing the setting in a very negative context, even though she's feeling alive and she feels it in the air. I think the thing she's feeling in the air is kind of sinister and dark because she's viewing the setting as things that are very violent. It's kind of like in movies when you're walking in like a forest and all of a sudden the forest comes alive and attacks you. That's the vibe I get. It's kind of like Harry Potter Forbidden Forest vibes or something. But then when you look at the other definitions of snare, I think that traps perhaps exist for her as well, because the second definition of snare was something that can lure or tempt someone into harm or error. Is her exuding this emotion. Her emotion is coming out of her. She's dancing. I feel like she's kind of like this, and the emotion's like coming out of her like this. Is the emotion that's out here, is that what she's feeling in the air? And then is that what's kind of like leading her towards a trap, towards a snare that's gonna lure and tempt her into something? I don't know. Is she feeling summertime sadness right now? Is that what's coming out of her? Is that part of what's coming out of her? Is that sadness going to lead her to a very intense sort of thing? Is the summertime sadness the snare, the trap that's going to cause her to go into a situation that's not good? Maybe? Also, a snare just connotes a feeling of entrapment, right? I think this song is very emotional. I think the summertime sadness, again, sadness is an emotional state. I think the trap can just be a psychological mental state as well. There's a lot of factors that play here. She's describing this using very literal things. I'm wearing a red dress, I'm dancing. I think that these are indicative of a very deep emotional state. I think there's a lot of like mental and psychological factors at play here. I have 36 minutes of footage so far and I am barely through the second verse. I could talk about this for a long time. I think there's a lot of different factors at play. I want to state all of them so you guys can make your own interpretations as well. That's why I'm trying to go through different avenues of this to present them to you, and hopefully you find value in it and you can, you know, based on your own vibes, interpret this song in a way that's meaningful to you. But for me, the overall thing is like it's on balance here and there's just some sinister stuff going on. The imagery here is really telling me that. Then she says, "Honey, I'm on fire. I feel it everywhere." Fire, again, fire is like passion. I described what fire means imagery wise at the beginning of this video. It's kind of like unbalance. It's less control. And she doesn't say there's a fire in me. If something is inside of you, you can kind of keep it in, but she says she's on fire. This is connoting a lack of control. If something is on fire, that's much more terrifying than if there's like a metaphorical fire within you. It's kind of like those like very intense parts of movies where like someone becomes powerful and they're like drunk with power and it's terrifying. I kind of think of that scene in X-Men. I don't remember which X-Men it is. I will like look it up and write it up here, but it's where, again, I don't know her name. It's a female character, but she like just becomes bad all of a sudden, and then she's like in that house and everything levitates when she like gets her powers, and she just becomes very powerful and she's like drunk with power. Another image I have is of the Netflix series Umbrella Academy, where Vanya finally realizes she has powers and she goes like very intense in a very unbalanced state and causes havoc. That's kind of the vibe I get. Like not as intense, but still pretty intense. Nothing scares me anymore. When nothing scares you, it's usually a positive thing. It means that you're confident in your abilities to take whatever comes. It means that you can stand on your own 2 feet. But here, I think nothing scares her because she's kind of existing in a different sphere of existence. I think she's blocked out everything and she's in her power bubble. She's like drunk with power or drunk with an emotion that is kind of causing her to black out or block out everything around her. I hope this is making sense. I understand this is kind of like a little meta. I feel like this song is about an emotion within you that's unstable and it's coming out. And I think she's kind of like not in touch with reality. I don't think she's not scared of anything because she's brave all of a sudden. I think she's just kind of choosing to ignore it. I think she's numb from reality. That's why she's not scared. It's not a balanced thing. That's my point. When nothing scares you anymore, I feel like you're just not paying attention to things. There always should be things that scare you. Like, I'm not saying the fear should be like making you shook. It should make you aware. So when she says that literally nothing scares her, I think that just means she just is detached from reality, which is not good. It feels like she's feeling a sort of freedom, but it's fueled by a very intense sort of rebellion. She didn't win the war. If you think of this as her being at war with this sadness, this impending summertime sadness, she didn't win the war. She is rebelling against the war, and that is her freedom. That's why nothing scares her. And she's saying, honey, I'm on fire. The word honey, that's like a pet name. It's supposed to be a term of endearment. It's supposed to be sweet, like honey. You get very shook that she's like, honey, I'm on fire. I can feel it everywhere. It's like she's being overtaken by something. And it's like in creepy movies where they pair like very cutesy things with very terrifying things. And it's just that juxtaposition of two very opposing images or two very opposing worlds. That's kind of what she's doing here. There's a lot of ha 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 ha. It's like something is overtaking her. Something is overpowering her. And like emotionally, it's just something is brewing emotionally. And I think this is just what happens when someone gets to a breaking point emotionally. This is how it's presenting in the protagonist of this song. Again, this song I feel like is I'm interpreting it as very emotional, and there's a lot of conflicting things. When I think of this song, it's this. Lots of different things, constant motion, unbalance, just like a mwahaha type of vibe. Like something's going on. And I'm sure she looks super cute in her red dress, but there is something sinister going on. Not saying the protagonist is sinister at all. I'm saying the emotional vibes within the protagonist are not positive. This is like heavier than a sadness. This is something that's not chill. Like I'm concerned for the protagonist. I hope that she's okay. But I think this is like accumulation of a lot of emotions, and it's just kind of like she can't take it anymore. This is how it is being expressed outwardly. It's starting as a positive thing, like, oh, I feel alive, but then the more she's allowing it to like overtake her, the more not chill it is. And again, that image of the snare, when I looked it up, that told me all I needed to know pretty much. It's showing me the setting is violent. And if she's feeling something in the air is referring to the setting. So there's just violence around her. She's existing within a violent setting, in a violent context. To her, it may seem positive. Like, I'm feeling alive. I can feel it in the air. Yay. From an outsider looking in and looking at the diction and looking at the imagery and looking at all the juxtaposition of like the violent things with words like honey and like, oh my God, which is supposed to kind of ground it into like a conversation between friends. There's a mismatch of some sort here. Please let me know if you agree with me or not in the comments below. Next verse. Kiss me hard before you go, summertime sadness. I just wanted you to know that, baby, you the best. When you ask someone to kiss you hard, you want them to make an impression. You want that kiss to be memorable. I would argue this is a kiss goodbye because it says before you go. She's asking for the passionate goodbye kiss. I think this whole song is like when the passion goes over that line that I talked about earlier. It's like the redness from that dress is going into the protagonist and coming outward, like the passion is. Anyways, I think here where it says kiss me hard before you go, summertime sadness, there's so many ways you can look at this. First, let's look at the words before you go. This signifies that she knows that the end is near. This shows an awareness. She knows that something is about to be over. She acknowledges this and understands this. There's like a sort of acceptance. She's like, I know you're gonna leave, just kiss me hard before you go. What is she talking to? Is she talking to like a summertime fling, like a lover? Is she talking to the season of summer? Again, I'm gonna reference Dashboard Confessional. My favorite album of his is about the season of summer. It's called Dusk and Summer. And the song that I analyzed from that album, So Long, So Long, he says, I leave under the cover of summer's kiss upon the sky, like a stone face of your lover, right before she says goodbye. To me, when I read that Dashboard Confessional lyric played in my head. So she could be talking to a person, a summer fling, to kiss her before they go. She could be talking to the season of summer, like summer's kiss upon the sky, like that Dashboard lyric. Or I think she's talking about just losing something that she found valuable. I think if she was talking to the season of summer, there would be a comma after before you go. Kiss me hard before you go, comma, summertime sadness. If there was a comma, I would think that she's talking to the season of summer, talking to the experiences. There is no comma there. That's why, for me, I don't think she's directly talking to anyone. This is very much like a poem. she's like, kiss me hard before you go. And then in my mind, it's like a colon, summertime sadness. She's not directing this towards anyone. I think the kiss me hard before you go is just kind of like a statement. It's signifying an end. She's not asking. She's not like being like, please kiss me before you go. She is just saying that like the things that happened in this season were magnified and intense. The ending is causing me to have an exuding of passion, and it's exuding outwardly into the setting. It's making the setting seem weaponized, sizzling like a snare. And after she says, kiss me hard before you go, she's defining everything that she said before this. Everything that I mentioned prior to this was the definition of summertime sadness. She's defining something by giving the definition and then the word. So like, you know how I define connotation as like the vibes or emotions that words elicit? It would be like me being like, the vibes or emotions that the words elicit. Connotation. That's kind of what she's doing here. The verses prior to this were the definition, and then the word is summertime sadness, or the phrase being defined as summertime sadness. There's a feeling of detachment that I sense here. Kiss me hard before you go. Summertime sadness. It's just like the definition of summertime sadness. It's a thing that is so intense that it's necessary for the vibe of the summertime or the events of summertime to be personified, and for them to kiss you hard before they leave you, before the season ends. She's not asking for anything. That's the point I'm trying to make. I hope I'm like, I feel this. I just don't know if I'm explaining it in a way that y'all can feel it. Please let me know if you do. She is saying that she's defining it. You know how it's customary in some cultures when you go to meet someone and you're just like kissing them on the cheek, you're like mwah mwah, and like in some cultures it's one kiss on the cheek, in some cultures it's like two, in some cultures it's like three, in some cultures it's a handshake. That's like the definition of a hello. I think she is defining summertime sadness as everything prior in this song, and the kiss me hard before you go is part of that definition. When something is a definition, there's no argument about it. It's like a statement of fact. I think I'm having an existential moment. Like, please let me know if I'm explaining this effectively. I'm trying. I just wanted you to know that baby, you're the best. She's explaining very intense things, and using the words like, oh my God, honey, and baby kind of minimizes the experience a little bit. And I kind of like that. It kind of makes the intensity come down a little bit, giving you a moment of like, oh, okay, this is fine. It's like a conversation. This is cute, potentially. I just wanted you to know that baby, you're the best. Again, I think she's just talking about the vibes of summertime, the things that come along with it. It's going to be different for every person, but I think she is very much referring to that, and she is personifying the season of summer here. That's who the baby is referring to. You could argue it's a summer fling. I personally think this is much more important than a person. I think that emotional feelings and personifying seasons are much more significant than like talking about like an individual person, because a season is a natural occurrence and it's like a natural force pretty much. For me, she's talking about the season, and for her, there is a sadness that comes with summertime. Perhaps she values it so strongly that when it ends, it's like she's losing a person because she's personified that season in such an intense manner. Next verse, got that summertime sadness. Summertime sadness. Got that summertime sadness. Oh. We have repetition of the lyric, I got that summertime sadness. That's repeated many times. As I state in all of my lyric analysis videos, repetition signifies significance. I view repetition of words as very important. I think we have to pay attention to it. I recognize that this is the title of the song, so it's going to be repeated, but especially with a songwriter like Lana Del Rey, who is very much a wordsmith and writes poetry, I do view that there's a lot of value in things that are repeated. Let's count. There's 9 lines with the word summertime in it, and then the entire phrase summertime sadness is repeated 5 times. The word summertime itself is repeated 16 times. There's a lot of repetition here. I kind of view repetition like this as a sort of rumination. Rumination is when you are constantly thinking about the same thing over and over, usually without a resolution, and you usually think about it because it's something unresolved, right? So this is on loop in her head, summertime, and then the summertime sadness, the emotional intensity that comes with summertime. Maybe even during summertime she feels sad. Maybe like summertime is a season where she doesn't feel chill, and then maybe when it's over, she's sad about it being over, because maybe the sadness she feels in summertime is familiar to her, or maybe it's cleansing in a way for her. There's lots of different ways we can take a look at this. Lots of different ways. Next verse. I'm feeling electric tonight. Cruising down the coast, going about 99. Got my bad baby by my heavenly side. If I go, I'll die happy tonight. Lots more unbalance in this verse. She's feeling electric, which reminds me of the telephone wires. The telephone wires, there's electricity going through the wire. Now she's feeling electric. Electricity is something that is very useful to have, but it can also cause a spark. And if a spark is very big, that's not safe. So that line to me connotes a feeling of danger. She's cruising down the coast. That's fun, but then she says she's going about 99. That's not fun. That's very, very fast. That's very, very dangerous. She is literally living life on the edge tonight. She's not caring about anything. She's feeling alive. Got my bad baby by my heavenly side. The diction in this line is very, very interesting. Usually when you talk about like a baby, like as a term of endearment for a significant other, it's very cute. Now she's like, I got my bad baby. Okay, I get that. I get that vibe you're going for. Still kind of cute. Also an alliteration, so I stand. But she says, by my heavenly side. She has her bad baby, right? The word bad and the word heavenly are in direct opposition to one another. That's a juxtaposition right there. Bad baby can just mean like, it can mean so many different things. However way you define it, the core of it is not going to be pure and bright. It can be edgy and fiery and passionate, but it's not balanced and stable. That's the connotation of bad baby for me. She has something bad on her heavenly side. To me, that's very counterintuitive. That shows a state of unbalance, because again, it's not flowing. Those two things don't go together. Like something bad is not going to exist within heaven. It's just not, but that's some religious diction right there. That's very interesting. If I go, I'll die happy tonight. Very interesting. She talks about heaven and she talks about dying in the line right after it. She is to the point where she doesn't care if she dies, essentially. This could be metaphorical, it could be literal, whatever it is, it's a state of unbalance. There's chaos here. There's a lot of chaotic energy. Lots of chaotic energy. Her heavenly side, heaven is a very positive thing, but like in this context, she's going fast. She's feeling electric. There's so many indicators of an unbalance and of danger. Feeling electric, danger. Going 99, danger. She's also on the coast, so if she crashes, she could potentially like fall into the ocean and not be found, even more dangerous. It's also nighttime, right? If this is the same night, it is nighttime because she says tonight. So it's dark. So can she really see where they're going? Lots of darkness. Look at the imagery, look at the diction. Lots of just like not chill vibes, just very reckless. Heavenly side is kind of like a foreshadow, in my opinion. She is feeling happy, she says, but it's an unstable sort of happiness. It's fueled from an unbalanced state that is not something that can be sustained, and it's dangerous. It's like a teenager having a reckless night. That's the vibe I get. Not chill. That's actually the last unique verse. Every other verse in this song is repeated. This song ends with a repetition of summertime sadness. I got that summertime sadness. And she says she has a summertime sadness. So she is feeling a sadness that is a specific brand of sadness. So I think she is describing to us what this sadness is. So everything that she described here, the passion and the darkness of her dancing in the moonlight, that is one definition of the summertime sadness. The telephone wires where the birds sit, the fact that it's becoming a trap for the birds, and all of the imagery associated with a snare, I think that's a definition of summertime sadness for her. All of these things can be thought of as being a definition of summertime sadness. She is defining this emotion through imagery, through literal things, through objects, the wire, the snare, through her dress, through an action, dancing in the moonlight, driving 99 down the coast. She's defining an emotion through actions and imagery. That's one way you can look at it. Another way you can look at it is that you can view the things she's doing as not the definition of summertime sadness, but as a result of feeling the summertime sadness, which is like the opposite of what I just said. But I truly think it's valid, you guys. So she could be feeling the summertime sadness, and it can cause her to dance in the red dress. It can cause her to view the setting as violent with the snare imagery. It can cause her to want to drive 99 down the coast. So this whole song could be a definition of an emotion, or it could be the results of feeling an emotion. I personally, in this moment in time, the way I am interpreting it, what feels like chill and true for me, I think this is very much intertwined and intermingled. What I know for sure is that this summertime sadness is not the type of sadness that makes you sleep all day in sweats. I think this is a type of sadness that kind of makes you detach from reality and go 100% full force on a destructive path. I think that's the kind of sadness that she's referring to here. I think that's what summertime sadness is. I think it's a brand of sadness that's very volatile, and it can kind of be funneled into more angry / passionate sort of emotion. But her summertime sadness is very much a volatile and destructive thing. I kind of view it more as a definition of summertime sadness. I kind of feel like she feels summertime sadness throughout the entirety of the season. I don't think it's just the end. When she says kiss me hard before you go, I think she's just saying goodbye to this brand of sadness, and then perhaps she's going to welcome another brand of sadness into her life. There's different types of sadness, right? And I think this is one type that she's felt, and I think this is something that perhaps, I keep saying Lana, I'm going to say the protagonist of this song. I don't want to say this is about her autobiographically at all. The protagonist of this song, in my opinion, this is something that they feel throughout the entirety of the season. I think they're just describing how they feel through imagery, through what they wear, through the actions that they do, through how they view the setting. I think there's moments during the season that this sadness comes out in a very volatile and not balanced and dangerous way, and it causes reckless behavior to occur. And when she says she has that summertime sadness, she's in the midst of it. It's a constant thing that she feels. I think this is just something that's always present. Perhaps it's a pattern that she feels the sadness every summer, and it's familiar. It's not healthy, but I think it's familiar. It's sort of home for the protagonist. Sometimes some people just like experiencing intense emotions, and it isn't healthy, but it's what they're used to, and it's perhaps how they feel alive. She says she feels alive multiple times in the song. She's engaging in risky behavior, like going down the coast and dancing in the middle of the street too. Like it's a very unbalanced date. I think I'm going to leave it there. I can talk about this song for a lot longer. I can go in on different vantage points as well. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Again, I think this is something that the protagonist of the song feels throughout the entirety of the season, and perhaps when fall comes, there's a fall time sadness. I think they just exist within the state. When it's over, it's over. They're going to welcome a new sort of sadness into their life, potentially. The way it's being described here, I view it as an ongoing thing. I don't view it as a one-off type of scenario. That's my personal opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you haven't already, and click the bell notification button. I don't know why I made a heart, but I don't know how to make a bell with my hands. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please share this video if you found it valuable or entertaining. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day or night or morning, or like mid-afternoon or mid-morning. I don't know. Comment down below what time it is where you're at. Okay. Bye. 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 Bye.